Okay, good morning. Welcome everybody, wherever you are, to today's webinar organized by Sustainable Architecture Research Group, Magister Arsitektur Universitas 11 Maret, also supported by the Students Association Vastuvidya. My name is Ovita Purwani and I will be your host in this webinar. Today, I am very delighted to welcome our guest, Dr. Nur Aimran Samsudin from University Technology Malaysia, to share his research with us with an interesting topic on the Malay Royal Towns in Malaysia from urban planning perspective. This webinar will be recorded and streamed on YouTube. If you have any questions for our speaker today, please use chat function in both platforms and I will be filtering and passing them on to the speaker. Please be kind to include your name and affiliation and perhaps your location along with your questions in the chat box. Also, please do not forget to fill the attendance form to be posted later in the chat box to have your free e-certificate. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to our speaker today. Dr. Nur Aimran Samsudin is a senior lecturer in the Urban and Regional Planning University Technology Malaysia. He received his PhD and Bachelor in Urban and Regional Planning from University Technology Malaysia. His research work is mainly in urban planning in traditional settlements. However, the main reason why I invited him to be the speaker of this webinar is because of his research on royal towns in Malaysia, as he has interest in royal towns and heritage issues. So, we will have a very interesting presentation from our guest speaker today. Please join me in welcoming him and let me hand it to our speaker, Dr. Nur Aimran Samsudin. Thank you very much. Please.
Okay, thank you very much to Ibu Ovita as a moderator for today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum. Good morning. First of all, thank you for especially Universitas 11 Maret inviting me and to have this session for this morning. And here I think this topic is for me is quite is very important to especially for those country that who still practice who still have royal institution especially, and due to the long history and the importance of royal institution towards our nation development and so on, especially in Malaysia context. So I think it could be it could be very interesting if we can discuss the existence of Malay Royal Towns from urban planning perspective. Kalau kita boleh bicara sedikit, mungkin ada audiens daripada rakan-rakan daripada Indonesia, pentingnya kota perencanaan kota. Dari konteks ini kita lihat bandar berada. Baik. Tadi Ibu Ovita, saya teruskan perkongsian saya pada hari ini. Untuk makluman, for your information that actually this project or this research actually has been sponsored by the National Heritage Department about 2016-2017, about 2 years around, if I'm not mistaken, and have a grant one of the research center that located in Faculty of Built Environment in UTM, which is Kalam, Pusat Kajian Alam Bina Dunia Melayu. So I was one of the researcher in this team, especially I give input on the from planning perspective. And also, there's one journal paper that we publish from this paper, and this is the title, Preserving the Characteristic of Urban Heritage and so on. So this is our paper. Actually, after this research, there's several more coming in, research paper related to the royal town in Malaysia. So I would like to share with you, before we go to detail, what actually is all about Malay Royal Town is all about. I would like to quote this statement from one books that I read from Professor Ramlah Adam. She is one of the professor that expert in, especially in a royal institution in Malaysia. So she said that due to the lack of documentation many historical event, fact about each rule cannot be referred today, especially in the Malaysian context. So, and many places that was once very important to royal rule can no longer play the same role. So the movement, sometimes the royal institution move from one city to another city. It could be effect to the local history and so on. So from this statement, I would like to extend our discussion today. I quote from one paper, also in 2018 from Seri. So he said that Malay Royal Towns are the best evolution example of Malay town because for your information that what they call it Malay towns here are referring to those towns that are developed early than the colonial period of time. For your information that British, in this case in Malaysia, we have a lot of influence by British, previously by Dutch, and also from Portuguese, especially in Malacca area. And the last but not least, but of course, when British came about 1700 something, start in Penang and go to other part of the country, and Malacca and so on. And of course, there are influence from the British colonization. But what I would like to share with you, before that the British colonization came in and influenced most of our urban form and so on, actually we have what we call this Malay town. So this is what we try to promote and try to convince that we may explore all this, what the uniqueness of our township in early part. Okay, so very rich in terms of urban heritage, in terms of identity, architectural style, and so on. So here also they highlight the issue to the urbanization, development, and so on. So somehow it has been eroded the local town identity, sense of place. Even though if you ask, if we have if we do a perception study, for example, perhaps the public will not know or notice that actually we have our own our Malay Royal Towns. After this, we will look on the definition from what we have found. And then the last one, she also highlight that about it's also unclear to legitimize and the meaning of the meaning and the identity of the Malay Royal Town. Again, somehow when we talk about what actually is Royal Town, somehow it reflects with our definition also. Okay, what actually is the Malay Royal Town is all about. So I also quote here. The Malay Royal Towns that presents in Malaysian urban area less known by public is unclear again, and actually it's one paper, so I think it's quite nice to have this nice to discuss today. They are proof that the strength and greatness of the royal institution, especially in the context of Malaysia. Okay, so the first part of this discussion today in this morning, I would like to bring you to look back the definition of what actually the royal town is about. Somehow, when you go through the definition, the concept, and so on, it is totally different in royal town that concept in European country. Okay, European country somehow is more concerned about the landlord, tuan tanah, pemilik tanah, and so on. And of course, they have also queen, king, and so on. But here, especially in our region, we have our own strength and uniqueness. In this case, in Malaysia context, I would like to propose what we call it Malay Royal Towns. So, based on a few papers, actually, you may found available outside there. There are lots of discussion about this. So, Malay Royal Town has been described as a town that has a strong relationship between the community, defense fortress, sistem pertahanan, and the king fort. Dalam konteks dia call it Istana Berkota. Kota means urban, and Bandar, where by the Royal Administrative District located, pusat pentadbiran, diraja dan sebagainya. And then Malay Royal Town also defined as Malay Historic Town, where the royal and administrative building are located. That's mean ada royal institution plus the administrative building. Okay, we will look how it looks like pusat pentadbiran that they have in previous time. Okay, if we look in this modern country nowadays, we may know Putrajaya is a Malaysian administration center. We will know like Jakarta that Indonesia, they propose a new administration center, right, in Borneo Island and so on. So this is how it's looked like in previous time. Okay, so this the third definition here from my paper itself. Malaysian royal town has having king palace. They must have traditional settlement nearby, surrounded by it, and of course they have again fortification system or defense system. The fourth definition here from Nasir, he is one of another prolific scholars in Malaysia that studying lots of old fort, kota-kota lama, kota-kota purba di especially in Peninsular Malaysia, and he found that they have several pattern typologies of all these townships. And here they define Malay Royal Town has its own character, historical, cultural, physical, and social character. So I will show you one of the map that he drawn from his research after this. So in overall, when we summarize all this definition, you will look on several definition from different angle and perspective. So today, I think maybe our definition and our discussion, we will focus on physical attributes, means that the physical characteristic from all these physical characteristics, it influence how the Malay Royal Towns looks like. Okay, so here I mentioned here they should have Royal Town should have what they call an official palace, istana or grand palace, istana rasmi dia, and they should have administrative center nearby, and which this township should be set up by the Sultan and all the followers. Okay, Malay historic town. There's another terms that I would like to promote here. What we call it, historic Bandar Malay town. One is Malay Royal Towns. Another one is Malay Towns. There's another scholars call it Bandar Kuala. Kuala means river estuary, and because almost, I mean, most of the old kingdoms, especially in Nusantara area, their starting point is located in the river estuary. Okay, dekat muara sungai. Okay, so Kuala, the terms Kuala is in our words in bahasa. It's very represent and very significant to the this context. Okay, the third point is must be founded by the Malay rulers, of course, and the Sultan, Raja. Okay, and previously even the Indonesia before the republic system and so on, they also have their own Raja and Sultan. And of course, if you visit to your Jakarta, all the heritage is still there. Okay. The whole urban setting, townscape fabric established by by the Malay Sultanate kingdoms, and then town that has strong relationship, royal institution, followers, surrounded by followers. So imagine that surrounding the palace itself, they have all the villages, they have all the administration center and so on. Most itself and become one of the community center and so on. You will see all this diagram after this. Okay, the royal town concept simply can be understood the appearance of the sultan or king that to be settled down in town, in that particular town. That's why when the king move from one place to another place, so normally the new town will be what they call it a royal town, because they follow the institution, not because of the physical context, but because of the sultan, the existence of sultan or raja or the local or the local rulers. And when they move to a new place, then the new place we establish as the royal town. Okay, and the last one also, that sometime when due to the proclamation, because of the sultan itself gazette the certain place or area to become their own royal town. This case could be applied from your European perspective. Normally they have a decree and they will proclaim the gazette certain area become their royal town. Okay, So I will look one of example that we have, since the king itself decide for certain area to become their own royal town, even though the sultan itself didn't staying there or living there. Right. So first, we need to look and understand the institution structure, the royal institution structure in the Malaysia context first, before we look on the how the cities looks like. Okay. So perhaps if you look on the Wikipedia, you just type on the Malaysia history and so on, you may look on this something, this diagram. I just pick up this one of it. So just to give overall picture that they have several states before independence, especially during the British colonization. So what we have here, what called it Federate Malay State before Malaysia established. Then we also unfederated Malay states. So this state, some of it have sultan and raja, okay, and also they have a state that they don't have sultan and raja. So especially like Melaka, Penang, and of course Singapore during that time is our part of Tanah Melayu, Malay Peninsula. And through the time we established the nation, we have during that time Federation of Malaya, and 1957 independent and so on, and 1963 we established Malaysia when they combined together with Sabah, Sarawak, and so on. So after that, you may look on the distribution of which state that still have sultan. Okay. So this is on the right side. If you look on here, it's one old map that has been sketched by Nasir in his book Kota, if I know it's Kota Melayu something. Very old books, I think about 1980s something. So he traveled around the Peninsula Malaysia and tried to trace back all the old fort, and also we believe that it could be the early township that established around Peninsula Malaysia. So this is one example that located in Johor, and the southern part of Peninsula. So this is what called it Kota Batu, Kota Batu that located in Johor Lama village, still there. The ruins, the structure, the earthwork, everything is still there. But there's no evidence because most of our buildings, we use woods as the main materials. That's why it's not preserved for the long time, because we talk about 1,100 something, even though 1,000, like this one, if I'm not mistaken, about 1,800 something. So the starting point where the Johor Kingdom started, it's not in Johor Bharu, but in Kota Tinggi area, which is Johor River, and before moved to Johor Bharu. And because they are different family that become a sultan, Johor Bharu, and then of course Batam Riau at the one time, and then cover Pahang, and then towards and then the current one, the latest one, as the proclaimed as another town, become their royal town. We will look after this. So there's two different terms. One is Kota, one is Kubu. Kota means Bandar. In the context of Malay society, Kota means Bandar, which is normally they become animation center. Normally, of Sultan will staying there. While Kubu may located nearby, or they may located outside of the city area. Kubu means the fortress system and the defense system. And this one sometimes they don't have palace. Okay. So in the complex itself, if you can imagine that, during that time they may have their own palace, let's say in this area, okay, and they have coronation room, hall, royal assembly, and so on, surrounded by villages, flowers, army, and so on. And the last one, the Malay Kota, can be found easily at the estuary river. That's why few scholars call it Bandar Kuala, or Seri town. You can see lots of name of place in our region, especially we call it Kuala, Kuala Kangsar, Kuala Muda, and so on. And all these township, all these places normally they have, you may find old kingdom, especially like Kuala Muda, where is it, Kuala Terengganu and so on. So then we still apply royal institution, constitutional, what we call it, constitutional monarchy system, system raja berperlembagaan. And now we only have, out of all the state that we have, we only have 9 sultan that still exist until today, which is Negeri Sembilan, Selangor, Perlis, Terengganu, Kedah, Kelantan, Pahang, Johor and Perak, only in this state. And so what's the difference? The state, sultan state and Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Okay, after that I will introduce to you. Okay, Yang di-Pertuan Agong is number 1, is the leader or the head of Malaysia. Under Yang di-Pertuan Agong, we have Prime Minister. That's why they call it Raja Berperlembagaan, because in constitutional we have follow kami pun ada Prime Minister and so on, with all the Chief Minister and so on. Okay, they have structure, government structure. So Yang di-Pertuan Agong we take care in term of hal ehwal agama, and also adat resam, so and all the responsible to the nation and so on. And for among these 9, they are in the Royal Council, Majlis Raja-Raja. They will sit down normally when they have issues that need to discuss and need to, especially every 5 years, they need to decide who will be next number 1 person, which is Yang di-Pertuan Agong, King of Malaysia. Every 5 years rotation. Okay, so they will rotate from each state. They will decide who should be able to lead for the whole nation every 5 years. So this is if you look on this poster, from the first one since since independent, so the first one should be Negeri Sembilan, and the current one, the latest one, this is our Yang di-Pertuan Agong nowadays, Sultan Abdullah from Pahang State. Okay, and for your information that we already complete our we are now in the second rotation. Okay, if you look on the left side, sorry, in this list, we start with Negeri Sembilan already 2 times, Selangor, Perlis, Terengganu, Kedah, Kelantan, Pahang. Okay, Pahang already 2 times, and now only Johor and Perak only 1 time, because they one rotation, and they follow the flow. But still, in case that sometimes they skip the rotation, and maybe they pass to another state due to the certain situation and so on. But we only have about 16 Yang di-Pertuan Agong nowadays. Okay, so 5 rulers, we already know there are 5, there's 9 Malay states, negeri, they call it Malay states, and of course they have Malay ruler, which is Sultan or Raja. Okay, and among these sultans, they have 7 state called Sultan, 1 state called Perlis, which is the northern part here, and 1 state called Yang di-Pertuan Besar, Negeri Sembilan, which is located next to the Johor, downstairs, number 5. Okay, so if you study all the timeline of the history and so on, so far we found that the Kedah is the oldest one, based on the history record, the oldest and most continued monarchy. It means that from the start, if I'm not mistaken, about 1100 something, their family still continue until today, except other states, they have changes few times, and maybe from one family to another family and so on. Johor, if I'm not mistaken, about three different groups, three families. Sometimes it could be among the family members itself, mungkin relative dan sebagainya, like Perak and so on. This a very long history. If we have, based on my research, is about, if I'm not mistaken, like more than 300. It's more than 190 list name. If you list from the Kedah up to the youngest royal institution, the youngest one about 1,800 something. I think per list, I think the last one. Kedah, the latest one, you can see latest is about from police. Okay, so these are all the location. What I want to share today, and they have 9. There's another one. Should be another one. Arau, Alostar, Kuala Kangsar, Kelang, Menanti, Bandar, Maharani, Muar, Perak. Oh yeah, sorry, it should be Kota Bharu, Kelantan. Number 9. Okay, we consider this township that after 1957. But for your information, all this town is not exist after independent, and they exist early than that. Okay, like Terengganu, it could be 1,200 something. Kedah, more than that, early than that. Lots of this, there's some, even though some of this town already established in the old kingdom. Old kingdom means early than that, about early than Melaka. Most of like in the context of peninsular modern Malaysia today, the earliest one could be Kedah. And then we have the physical attributes of early Malay Royal Town. Let's see. Okay, all the if you look at all this illustration, actually you should give credit. This one architect, Muhammad Faizal Rahmat, quite well known in terms of their how they interpret from the history record. They try to establish concept and all the illustration. So they interpret based on it, because we don't have lots of picture. We actually don't have record, well record and document and so on. So they try to interpret. So if you look on this illustration, so it's especially in Melaka context, is showing how it looks like the royal town during that time. Busy with the trading activities, of course. If you read, if you study on Melaka history and so on, it is very great kingdom during that time. Of course, is and this institution or this town growth either serentak. It could be at the same time they have also kingdom in Terengganu. There are also kingdom established in Kelantan and so on. After Melaka collapse, has been replaced by the Johor, because the last ruler moving to the southern part and set up the new kingdom, with the continue with another family and so on, until up to Batam, Riau and so on, Riau Lingga, and it continues. So the Sultan Melaka, and this is all the illustration, how it looks like. For example, like if you visit to Melaka, and nowadays become a UNESCO site, there's a replica. The Grand Palace, and become the State Museum. But to be frank, based on the record, the size is not accurate. Because based on the record, this seven times bigger than what the government has been built on that place. Even though it's not located in the foothill, there's a record say that the palace located at the top of the hill, which was during the Portuguese or the Dutch, it become the church area. The ruins is there, but there's no evidence that the palace is located there. But based on historical record, they mention about this palace. They have grand mosque and so on. So I built. I prepare this kind of diagram. Actually, if you discuss on theory and so on, they may have several other, but this is what I'm proposed. How this looks like. So we have normally should be at the strategic point. If you look on the Melaka case and a few other cases, so the Grand Palace should be located at the top, and nearby, maybe near foothill and so on, they have mosque. They have institution, maybe madrasah, school system, pondok, and so on. They have open space. This open space could be the training area to learn silat, to prepare for the war, everything, and surrounded by the villages, followers, and of course nearby to the gate. Perhaps they have noblemen, pembesar-pembesar, mungkin bendahara, mungkin laksmana dan sebagainya, mesti berdekatan dengan raja. So within the complex itself, they have king family. Dia ada istana kecil dia, yang belong to the family, to the families. Selain pada istana rasmi, the Grand Palace, at a different place, mungkin di negeri-negeri jajahan, di kawasan-kawasan jajahan, they have what they call istana hinggap. When they travel around, so they may set up new palace at the outside of the city. So you can see there's a jetty. Of course, they have good. They will do for their trading activities, and especially they have their own royal jetty. And there's one state still have their, if I'm not mistake, is Kelantan. They call it Titi Diraja. And of course the layman jetty. Penambang there, if you look on the riverside, there's a penambang. Penambang system means penambang is a boat service that bring to one place to another place and cross to the river. Maybe for each place they have different name, but there's a boat service. So the layman could be the live another side at the next at the Johnson River bank or nearby the palace. So you can see that they have surrounded by the forest and all the natural landscape and so on. This characteristic somehow you may found in Seri Menanti. They're surrounded by the hilly area. In Kuala Terengganu, it's located at the river mouth, Kota Bharu and so on. Of course, during that time, agriculture is one of the most, economic activity, become the local activities, paddy field, orchard, could be fishing activity and so on, okay, instead of trading and so on. And nearby the port area could be have storage, could be shipyard and so on. And of course, they have also fortress to defend the city. This is what I would like to highlight, that if you will read Orientalist, European description about our cities in the maybe early than 18th, 1800 something, they will describe our city looks organic. Our city looks like very unplanned, better, but to be frank, actually, they have a system. They have a guideline that basically is not maybe not well written, but there's some principle they apply. So this is what I highlight, that actually the planning, there's a planning system actually available if you study carefully our old township, early than the colonial town that coming after that. Okay, in terms of orientation, in terms of connectivity, function of district, and zoning and so on. Actually, they have already applied during this period of time. And here, after we summarize, we look. Actually, they have only in my paper. I only conclude about 3 components. If you look a few papers regarding the Malay Royal Town, especially in context of Malaysia, I found that already about 12. They have a grand palace. Most could be including a madrasah also, pondok system and so on, fortress, kubu. Of course, the villages, settlement area, they have a public space, padang, medan, and they also marketplace. Marketplace, it could be not necessarily in building. It could be open area next to the jetty, next to the port. And if you look on the modern Malay town, especially after independence, maybe early than that, they also have gateway, landmark, okay, like pintu gerbang dan sebagainya, sebelum masuk ke pekarangan istana. Of course, river could be the main component, since the river during that time become a highway for trading purposes, to bring goods from the upstream to the downstream and so on. Okay, they have jetty, they have port, they have nowadays they have what you call it Royal Museum, and then they have also for the modern one they have Royal Museum and Gallery, and nowadays I think lots of few states already they have their own Royal Museum and Gallery, and of course nature features itself, either in the apa kita panggil valley, so nature features play important roles. So in this case, maybe we may look at it from the modern Malay Malay Royal Towns in Malaysia. So, in this table, during the 2018 paper, I wrote about 3 typologies. I proposed 3 typologies based on 9 royal towns. So you can look on how they shift from one place to another place. So now this is the capital state, Ibu Negeri. The Kanga, Alostar, okay, this is a state on the left side, okay, and then we have capital state. And then if you look at the history, where's the kingdom start, the starting point, you may look on it. Some of it similar, some of it at different place. Kanga, like for example, Kanga, same. Alostar, they have somehow the most of early kingdom located in Kuala Muda. Not really Perak, Ipoh, Kuala Kangsar. Shah Alam, the original place in Jugra. So if you look on it, how they shift from one place to another place, and then I create another column, towns with official palace. So in the current context. So now, look at, if for example, palace located in Arau, Kedah in Anak Bukit, Kuala Kangsar still there. Selangor somehow moved from Jugra to Shah Alam, and Negeri Sembilan still there, still since the first period of starting point, still there, only with a new modern palace. Johor Bharu changed from Kota Tinggi, Johor Bharu, and then suddenly they have their gazette another different town, which is Muar, located at the different district. So after we look all this data, you may look on the gazetted. I call it gazetted, but actually by planning perspective, it's only one town that has been gazetted officially, which is Bandar Maharani Muar. Because of the decree of Johor, Sultan of Johor, they established that, they say that, okay, Bandar Maharani will be, that in Muar will be the royal town and not in Johor Bharu. So others is based on the interpretation of scholars and all the discussion record. We can determine, we can call them as the royal town, but it's no clear, there's no record, well record about it. Arau, Alostar, Kuala Kangsar, Kelantan, and so on. Okay, and then you can see the typologies, which is traditional typologies. They are referring those town that start there, evolve, and maybe growth, and maybe they just move nearby, within the same towns, the same place. Transition, they move from one place, maybe they move to next door, next neighbors district, for example. Okay, that's one transition. While modern, this case is only to Johor, because we summarize that Johor, because somehow they starting the Johor kingdom start in Kota Tinggi, and then the modern Johor kingdom established in Johor Bharu after they move out from the Singapore, Temasek, and during that time. So, and then again, they move, and then they declare somewhere else, which is Muar. So the way, what they call it, modern. Okay. And then I do this table. This one is not in my paper. Perhaps I will write another one. Earlier than that, if you look in early 90s, 1800s, so you may look all this criteria. Okay, but of course, during that time there's no gateway, and because fine system is not like modern system nowadays. Reverse there, Royal Museum is not there. Royal Museum is no exist museum during that time. Dia ada istana saja, masjid, very simple form. But you also notice there's the changes name up there. Then we divide into, we call it within 1800 to 1900. So you can see the changes of the name, and even though like Jugra, somehow there's no marketplace, no gateway. Royal, so you see that there's some element has been added up, okay, and some elements not there. Okay. The last one, this is what happened for what we call it modern royal town today, what we have. So I just summarized there. So about 1900 and 1900. you may look on some of elements, we may not found that they are available there, because sometimes, like for example, like Kuantan, the royal town located at a different district, but they established the official one at different place, and that's why you may not found the royal mosque, for example. Royal mosque, no, we can define that for mosque that frequently used by the king for the prayer, for the Jumaat prayer, for the social event and so on. So they will meet the rakyat there. Okay, normally located nearby the palace. Then we can consider that as a royal town. Royal mosque. Then of course, certain area, for example, like Klang is very urbanized area. There's no place for traditional village can exist there. That's why this quite lack in terms of traditional settlement. Kuantan also, of course, in Chendering also, they quite in island form. So as you may look on this detail, if you can point on the plan, then you may know that somehow we quite we lost some identity, some of the components. So this all the detail, okay, around you may look on the fact, on the istana and traditional, and this is a few example. So you may look on the example, this is complex, you can see the dotted orange, and this is a palace complex and surrounded by the villages. Okay, there's a township, which we can consider as marketplace. This is in Kedah. Okay, this is the complex where the palace located nowadays, and there's a river at the back there, and surrounded with paddy field. So you can see some of they have a gateway, and this local mosque, even though it's not royal mosque. This is Kuala Kangsar. I think Kuala Kangsar quite traditional. They are very authentic in terms of architecture style, landscape and so on. Actually, this is located in number 1 and number 2. There's a modern palace and also the traditional palace. The yellow color is traditional palace. The modern one is Standard Skandaria. This is the modern one, the official one nowadays. Now the old palace become gallery and so on. This is Royal Town. This is Royal Mosque number 3. So this how the whole thing's located within the hilly area. Where's the township? Township is number 5. Through the time, these are shop houses, shop lot. You can see number 5 kind of shop houses. So this very the ambience is very nice there. This is Klang, Selangor. It's an urban area. It's very modern. New palace with the Sultan Sulaiman Royal Mosque just next to the palace. You may look at the mausoleum, Royal Makam Diraja, Makam Diraja. Sorry, number 3 here. So you can see the grand. Even though this is Medan Dataran, but somehow it's within the compound, palace compound, so public may not can access easily. It's a part of compound, so you need to pass the security and so on, right? They may use it for during the event. So Kuala Pilah, another one of traditional, very authentic in terms surrounded by the nature features, located at the valley, at the paddy field and so on. You may found this kind of very nice architecture style. Okay, Istana, Masjid. This is the current one, number 3. This is the official one. Okay. Bandar Maharani, this is the modern one. And this house is look like it's in located in Johor. Okay, they only have Istana Hinggap. This is the one. They have 2 Istana Hinggap there. This I don't have the picture. What I call it, Istana 1, 2, 3, because they have 3 unit bungalows that become the official resident for when the Sultan go there. Then they have another one, Sultanate Tanjung. This is Masjid Jamek, and then they start install when the decree have done. So they start install all the landscape, streetscape, and features. Signboard, a gateway, modern one to become to highlight that this is Royal Town. This is Pekan. Okay, you may look all this thing. This is Kuala Terengganu, and most of it located in the river mouth or river estuary. Okay, this is in Terengganu. sorry, should be, this is state museum. It's not the Royal Museum. Istana Mazia somehow is influenced by Paris. Because where the Sultan during that time they travel to Paris, so when they're coming back they create new one. The original palace, if based on picture, the three-story wooden structure. So imagine that, very nice palace. But through the time, they has been replaced with the modern one. Kota Bharu, Kelantan, you may found all this gateway, mosque. This is the original istana. Of course, they have others, but it's one of the still preserved until today. Istana Johor, this is also wooden structure, located next to the river. This is what how the case study. If you can focus, zoom out. Zoom in a specific location. For example, like Kedah. Kedah nowadays it changed to Anak Bukit, but the original place located in Alostar. Okay, then you can mark this based on map, if I'm not mistaken, 1945 maps from the British War Office, I think. So we can mark all the location. There's even those one like Sultan Palace is still not there. There's no there anymore, but there's few replaced through the time. Several palace nearby, but the original administration center we can identify. Most still exists until today. You can see the date. Istana Kuning about 1,600. Through the time they add more building and so on. But where is township? Township is there. So you can see when we mark it, use a district. So we mean understand that, oh, this is marketplace. There's an administration area. There's a settlement area. There's a regular center and so on. Right. So I think, yeah, that's all. So enough, 1 hour. Okay, I think what I can conclude that here, this town already established a long ago, early than all the colonial town that normally what in context of Malaysia, when we celebrate 100 years urban planning previously, we are put a remark that based on when the starting point of influence, colonial influence. But to be here, I would like to promote that, to say that actually we have lots of towns that established early than what we have today, that most influenced by the British. This become part of our history and the timeline, the history timeline. So here, if you study carefully, we will understand, we start to appreciate our local heritage, our urban heritage. And all these components that still exist should be preserved well. In the buildings, it could be a place, it could be an area. We should consider to preserve and conserve, even though. Okay, so this is very important to highlight that to the young generation, to appreciate their local heritage and so on. So that's all. I pass back to Ibu Afita.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Imran. Okay, I think this is very interesting because when you talk about the real towns in Malaysia and you say that it's always connected with the port. I mean, it's about the trade activity through the through the water, and which is actually it's very different with Indonesia. For example, in Java. Most of the center of civilization, which is kingdoms, are usually in the valleys between the volcanoes, and only some of them are at the close to the beach, close to the coast. So yeah, most of them are inland. So this is very different. That's why maybe that's why that one of the elements that's always exists in the royal towns in Malay is the jetty. Well, we usually don't have it in Indonesia. We don't have the port as the the main thing of the royal towns.
Can I respond on it?
Yes.
Okay. It's a good question. Actually, it's not all kingdom located the river estuary. If you study carefully, actually they have more than that. I mean, some of the kingdom located at hinterland. That's mean outside of the, I mean, maybe the upstream, and not really, but normally they will use river because the river is trading roads. I hear someone asking question.
No.
No, okay.
Please keep on.
And during that time they only have river as to access all this place. Somehow if you in context of Malaysia, for example, I give case Johor, Kota Tinggi. The early kingdom of Johor located at the Kota Tinggi river. If you trace back, actually they move from the river mouth towards the upstream. Because due to the strategic, to the safety, because when the Portuguese came to attack the Johor kingdom during that time, they blocked the river Seri. So as the result, so they moved towards the upstream and make all the big ship of Portuguese difficulty to entrance the place. So these are all the war strategy and so on. So it's not necessary to say that the starting point is in River Seri. But if you read what they call it, settlement concept, Malay settlement concept in this region. I think this one paper, Bagus Wiramono. I think he is professor. Bagus Wiyormotono. Tak salah saya. Dia ada satu buku discuss about the concept of duduk and sitting. Sitting concept, duduk. When they start, they want establish a kingdom. And also, if you read Professor Johannes Widodo also discuss about this concept, why the starting point, the river, and so on. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I'd like to give it to the audience if anybody wants to, if anybody has some questions, just ask directly. Now, while waiting, I also want to ask, because you said that it is quite difficult. It is quite difficult to find the original one, because they're from woods, right? So I want to ask in technical term, how did you trace all the changes from the of the earliest buildings?
Actually what we do in that research, actually there's a team, architect team, they do for the building inventory. So when go for a visit for each all the 9 states, so we start to identify all the significant buildings belong to the royal institution. It could be the old palace, it could be old fort, it could be any things, physical evidence that belong to the royal institution. So from my angle of point of view, from planning perspective, I look on the maps that were available, and then we can compare it in terms of orientation, in terms of accessibility, and so on. Why they decide to locate, for example, like Malacca case, why they put on the top of hill. This biologically we know that's for strategic, for defense strategy, and so on. And even though if we discuss more detail in terms of philosophy, so the way how they put the higher institution, the royal institution at the top of the hill, for example, this represents something. It can be symbolized of the greatness of the kingdom and so on. And next to the palace, normally it could be mosque. So because the Islamic influence is very great to the establishment of the kingdom. How important in terms of education, Islamic education, in terms of administrative matters, and so on. That's why most normally just located next to the mosque.
Okay, thank you. I think there's someone who wants to ask. Lisana Sikina, could you just ask directly?
Sorry, can I just ask without video? I'm sorry. Is it okay?
That's okay.
Yeah. Thank you for very interesting talk. I'm really interested in the relation between these cities and the river. Like, how was the water utilized? Because I also see there that the palace is so close to like the paddy fields and the agricultural system there. So I'd like to know if there were any water infrastructures, typical water infrastructures within these cities during that time. Thank you.
If we talk about maybe since 1100, 1200 years, I mean, maybe if you look in Malaysia, you may study on Kedah, in Kuala Muda. This place very rich with the paddy field and so on. Of course, during they came together, they become the economic activities, trading, trade, butters, and so on. They will bring goods from other place, from other kingdoms, maybe from Sumatra, maybe from all the Javanese island and so on, maybe from other China and so on. So that's why if you study also trading maritime routes, Southeast Asia routes, what call it, trading, because instead of we have a what Silk Road, Silk Road that bring people that from east to the west. They also establish maritime road, and there's passing then in context of Peninsula Malaysia, all the state have located, they have access the river to the sea, either to Strait of Malacca and also South China Sea, and most of that's why at my presentation I say that most of the early kingdom established along this waterfront, okay, and through the time there may be due to the strategy, war and everything for safety defense, so they may move maybe towards interland and so on. So you may found that there's a kingdom, there's a fort that located far away from the riverside. So, but in the back to your question, river is very, if we can say, we analogy, I mean, reflect with the modern facility, it could be in a highway to them. That's why village that located upstream need to pay more tax when they're passing through to another village. Because if you want to, they want to trade their goods from their village, they want to passing through and want to sell in the market area, in the river, sorry. So they need to passing several villages. So what have done, what happened? So these traders may need to pay lots. That's why people are prefer to live nearby the river estuary. This is one of things that we could found when we study this thing. Okay.
Could I follow up a little bit?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
one more.
Yeah, please.
Were these rivers prone to flooding? And perhaps were there any safety measures within the cities for this kind of phenomena?
Yes,
because
of course.
I'm pretty sure we have high rainfall as well in Malaysia.
Yeah, exactly. It's not denied. Based on the history record, if study in Terengganu, for example, they call it Bah Besar. There's one event, flooding, and has been demolished the whole city, and of course, effect the palace also. And these are all the nature disaster and so on. So, but somehow this event may happen during the circle is about 100 years in time. So it's not well recorded. But this one event has been recorded in Terengganu, Bah Besar, big flooding or something, and affect the whole city. And of course it affect the activities, the villages and so on. But Malacca, I don't think so. Especially for those who are the kingdom or the cities that establish the Strait of Malacca, they don't so much affected by the flooding. But the open seas, but I don't have that data. But I believe that due to the pasang surut, dia pasang surut.
We know
Flow
that.
of water. Tidal flow, is it? Tidal flow. The water level naik, because of much of from the sea level and the river, so they make up flooding lah, right?
Okay. You want to follow up, please, Anak?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That was nice. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there's also another question from Bu Yuni Iswati. Could you please, Bu Yuni?
Maaf, mungkin saya dalam bahasa Indonesia saja ya.
Boleh Ibu.
Oke, saya melihat presentasi ini tadi ternyata baru terbuka kekayaan dari Malaysia ya. Saya pikir hanya ada 1 atau 2 saja gitu kerajaan yang dimiliki Malaysia, ternyata ada banyak sekali. Kemudian mungkin yang saya kenal hanya Putrajaya gitu ya. Ini malah di sini tidak dimasukkan. Itu apa ada alasannya? Itu saja. Terima kasih.
Okey, baik. Sebentar tadi saya dah bentangkan, Putrajaya ni pusat pentadbiran, kita cakap New Administration Center for Malaysia. Since Kuala Lumpur is too dense, crowded, terlalu padat. Jadi di sekitar kurang lebih tahun 1995, masa tu zaman Tun Mahathir, decide to move the pusat pentadbiran itu di luar Kuala Lumpur. Jadi dibuatnya satu pusat pentadbiran, dipindahkan semua agensi kerajaan, kementerian-kementerian, kantor-kantor pejabat, pindah di Putrajaya. Jadi di Kuala Lumpur tu dikekalkan finance center, fungsinya itu masih kekal. Dalam konteks ini Putrajaya dia adalah bandar moden. Dia Putrajaya dan Istana Negara berada di Kuala Lumpur. Tapi ada juga Istana Kerajaan Negeri Selangor terletaknya di Putrajaya. Putrajaya pada hari ini dia menjadi menjadi wilayah persekutuan. So kita kena faham struktur dia. Kalau kita lihat tadi mana ya? Negeri-negeri tadi, negeri-negeri kalau boleh lihat so negeri-negeri ini, setiap negeri dia ada pemerintah. Satunya Menteri Besar, kalau dalam konteks kerajaan sekarang, kerajaan moden sekarang ni, pemerintahnya Menteri Besar, Chief Minister. Atas Chief Minister, nombor 1 di setiap negeri adalah Sultan, kecuali negeri-negeri yang tidak ada raja. Okay. Sebagai satu negara, sebagai satu Malaysia, kita ada kita panggil Yang di-Pertuan Agong, di mana menjadi wakil setiap negeri-negeri itu akan terpilih setiap 5 tahun untuk memerintah negara. Okey, sultan daripada negeri. Contohnya pada waktu sekarang ini, ketika ini sultan daripada negeri Pahang yang memerintah Malaysia. So dia represent setiap negeri. Itu yang dimaksudkan dengan raja berperlembagaan. Kerana kita ada sistem raja dan juga kita ada juga sistem kita ada demokrasi. So Perdana Menteri juga menasihat kepada Sultan. Ada tugasan-tugasan tertentu, tanggungjawab tertentu yang dalam konteks ini. Terima kasih Ibu. Ini kalau boleh faham ni, yang Royal Town yang kita hari ini yang saya bentangkan adalah bandar-bandar yang terletaknya di negeri-negeri beraja. Putrajaya dari 3, Putrajaya, Kuala Lumpur dan juga Pulau Labuan. Di Sabah Sarawak tu, di antara tu ada satu pulau, dia Pulau Labuan. 3 tempat ini dipanggil Federal Authority. Dia wilayah persekutuan. Dia satu negeri sendiri. Dipanggil wilayah persekutuan. Benderanya dia ada satu bendera saja. Tapi yang lain-lain ada negeri masing-masing. Kalau kita anggap wilayah ni, mungkin kita boleh anggap satu negeri lah. Jadi negeri untuk wilayah persekutuan, dia terus kepada Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Dia tidak ada sultan yang spesifik.
Oke, thank you.
Putrajaya di bawah federal.
Okay, thank you, Bu Yuni. Bu Wiwi.
Yes, thank you very much. Ya, terima kasih Bu Opi. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
This is a good Bu Opi makes webinar. Maybe I want to ask you about when I visit to Malaysia and I ever to live in Malaysia Utara too. Yeah. Regarding Bu Yuni question, I would like to ask you about because last January before COVID, I visited Putrajaya, to visit the kingdom and the big mosque, the new big mosque, yeah.
Oh, mosque. Okay.
The big, yeah.
Okay.
But I want to ask you, I think why did Malaysia make a duplication of the Malaysian kingdom in Putrajaya? Because we cannot do in the palace just in outdoor, and someone said, oh, it's just duplication.
Ibu.
Terus Bu Wiwi, we cannot hear
I
you.
pray in Grand Mosque, but as a but also as a tourist, yeah. So in there, we spray and together with the tourist destination, yeah. So that an emotional heritage cannot be felt, yeah, emotional, and unfortunately also cannot to be entered because it is closed, yeah. Unlike in the Solo, we can in there. Ya, baik. Ya, itu Bu Opi. Mungkin apa? Gimana? Jadi saya ke sana, tapi saya nggak bisa masuk. Dan kenapa dia membuat duplikasi? Itu sehingga tidak bisa merasakan emosionalnya keraton royal tadi gitu. Jadi dua duplikasi ya. It's right.
Okay, baik Ibu Wiwi, saya ada dua perkara yang Ibu Wiwi mention. Satu, saya rasa soalannya iras seperti soalan Ibu Yuni tadi, Putrajaya. Jadi Putrajaya ini pusat pentadbiran kerajaan. Dia tidak ada satu dia represent sebagai simbol kepada negara. Ini adalah pusat pentadbiran di mana ketuanya adalah Perdana Menteri. Sebentar, saya nak cuba buka saya punya earphone sebab saya dengar double my voice. Sebentar ya. Kalau saya ini boleh bisa dengar?
Ya.
Okey. Jadi yang masjid namanya Masjid Putra yang Ibu pergi itu. Masjid itu sebenarnya kalau kita lihat dari segi arsitektur, binaan masjidnya, binaan pejabat Perdana Menterinya dan juga mungkin pejabat kerajaan berhampiran di Putrajaya itu, kita lihat mungkin ada duplication, mungkin ada influence daripada Middle East, mungkin ada Persian daripada Iran dan negara-negara lain, Morocco dan sebagainya. Because masa tu kalau saya boleh katakan, we are looking for the national identity, and this topic sebenarnya has been discussed a lot through the years and since independence. So after independence, so when we want to start to develop government office, kita nak bina bangunan-bangunan ikonik dan sebagainya, pakar-pakar tempatan dan sebagainya melihat apakah identiti nasional yang boleh ditonjolkan. Dalam konteks ini, kita menjadikan budaya Melayu dan juga agama Islam itu sebagai tema utama untuk diangkat sebagai identiti nasional, identiti Malaysia, tanpa menafikan yang pengaruh-pengaruh lain. That's why dari segi arsiteknya ada percampuran pelbagai gaya dan sebagainya. Jadi di Putrajaya itu memang, tapi dari segi susun aturnya, kalau dari segi falsafahnya, memang itu direka, perencanaan kotanya direka semua 100% daripada pakar-pakar tempatan, dari perencana tempatan. Kita tidak ada master dari segi master plan-nya, plan induk semuanya direka oleh pakar-pakar tempatan. Termasuklah arkitek bangunan-bangunan itu semua arsitek tempatan. Sebab kita nak tunjuk this is simbol pusat pentadbiran negara dan sepatutnya represent our nation. So mungkin ada influence mungkin sebab pengaruh Islam. Bila kita nak interpret apakah gaya seni bina Islam, jadi mungkin kita ambil sedikit daripada Morocco, ambil sikit daripada Iranian, ambil dan sebagainya. So dia ada percampuran daripada pelbagai kerajaan-kerajaan yang hebat seluruh dunia dan sebagainya. Dan seni bina Melayu sebenarnya banyak diterapkan. Jadi kalau kita nak balik semula ke tajuk kita, Royal Town, sebenarnya konsep-konsep itu sebenarnya ada dalam bandar-bandar diraja yang saya tunjukkan tadi. 1 hingga 9 tadi, dan ada 12 komponen kalau kita boleh buat rumusan tadi, sudah ada. Dia bukan saja bangunan, bukan saja sebab kewujudan istana tu, tapi bagaimana dia menyusun atur pembandaran dia tadi, bagaimana dia merencana kota dia, kota-kota pada waktu itu, yang sebenarnya kita boleh belajar. Dan kita mungkin bila kita nak buat satu pentadbiran baru, mungkin pentadbiran baru, kerajaan negeri nak buat pusat pentadbiran baru dan sebagainya, dia mungkin boleh lihat balik perkara-perkara tadi. Terima kasih Ibu Wiwi.
Okey, masih ada
Ya, sampai mungkin sampai di sana ada juga penyewaan custom ya, pakaian baju di masjid.
Maaf.
Halo. Jadi
Custom?
sejauh mana?
kostum.
Sejauh mana? Halo.
Ya, teruskan.
Lalu sejauh mana masjid itu memegang tadi terkait dengan royalnya Malaysia tadi, memegangkan dia sebagai representatifnya. Apa memang sengaja sampai ya nilai religinya ya itu juga dibaurkan dengan nilai culture dari, karena juga ada penyewaan custom ya, jadi berfoto pakai customnya Malaysia. Gitu ya, itu
saya tidak boleh menjawab bagi pengurusan masjid. Tapi saya rasa sebab
ya sudah maaf ya, di sini saya yang sebetulnya di sini justru itu yang ingin saya tanyakan, kan dia sudah duplikasi terus dia representasi itu, tapi memang berarti masjid itu sebagai destinasi wisata ya, sampai ada begitu ya, tapi itu ya, jadi religinya privasinya itu sampai di mana gitu. Terus yang kedua, kenapa masjidnya juga waktu hanya saya ke sana tertutup, tidak boleh
dia
masuk?
mungkin ada masa itu saya pernah pergi, ada satu waktu tu dia tutup.
Untuk hari-hari biasa apakah bisa masuk?
Bukan, dia open. Setiap yang saya maklum,
gimana?
Yang saya maklum waktunya memang dibuka pada waktu sebelum COVID lah. Sebelum COVID masa tu dia buka.
Ada jadwalnya.
Tapi masa Januari ujung-ujung itu dia sudah ketatkan. Pelancong mungkin tak boleh masuk sampai ke main prayer hall lah.
Iya. Itu saya habis umroh, jadi pulang umroh ada ekstra kunjungan ke Putrajaya gitu. Okay. Ya, terima kasih Bu Uti.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Wiwi. Is there any question? Any more questions from the audience? Pak Imran. Oh yeah, okay, please.
Okay. Hello.
Silakan.
Hello, Dr. Imran. It's me, Zaki. Okay. Hello, Ibu Ofita. I'm from Malaysia. I'm from KL, Kuala Lumpur. Okay. I have a question to the Dr. Imran. So from the list of the Royal Malay Town, I have almost visit all the town except Pekan. Okay, except Pekan. So all the Royal Town I have visit from Perlis to Johor, especially Muar lah, and Bandar Maharani. So one of the component in the Royal Town is village. You said as the component one is the villages around the what you call it, the palace. Okay. So and for today, I don't see any function of the village to the palace. Can you explain what is the function actually of village for the past and until now? Okay,
Quite difficult to find a question. If you look on the, we talk about when the Malay Kingdom or the royal institution become what do you call it, monarchy. That's mean the 100% rules by the Sultan. There's no government yet. It's not democracy government yet. During that time, they are followers, Sultan followers. So they could be the farmers, army that defend the city. You know, they are also workers. Mungkin terdirinya daripada tukang-tukang. Kalau kita lihat di mana-mana tu ada jalan-jalan, ada kampung-kampung yang keturunan dia dulunya dia tukang kepada istana. Dia orang pakar. Mungkin tukang kayunya, tukang hiasan dan sebagainya. Kebanyakan ada professional team dia. Dan juga ada contohnya ada kalau kita lihat kampung ada setengah bandar diraja ni masih kekalkan nama kampung, contohnya kampung bendahara, kampung laksamana. Sebab ini adalah settlement pengikut pembesar tadi. Laksamana, contohnya laksamana, kalau kita samakan dengan jawatan hari ni, could be panglima, could be panglima tentera dan sebagainya, menjaga keselamatan, atau ketua polis dan sebagainya, pak polisi, mungkin navy, dia menjaga perairan dan sebagainya. Jadi mereka juga ada pengikut dan sebagainya, dan membuat settlement yang tersendiri. Jadi through the time, kalau kita lihat dalam konteks ini memang jauh berbeza lah. Mereka bukan lagi seperti masyarakat tradisional. Dan kampung ini sebenarnya kalau kita lihat dari perspektif contohnya landscape budaya, cultural landscape, dia become part of the component. And because Sultan and rakyat tidak boleh dipanggil tidak berpisah tiada, di istilah ni, berpisah tiada. Sebab bila ada royal institusi, ada sultan, ada raja, mesti ada rakyat. Dan itu menggambarkan secara falsafahnya, dia menggambarkan hubungan rapat antara sultan dan juga rakyat, dan berdekatan dengan kompleks raja tadi. Dan kalau kita lihat ada bandar-bandar pada hari ini, istana-istana moden lain ini terletak sedikit jauh daripada pertempatan. Mungkin sebab privacy, mungkin sebab keselamatan dan sebagainya. Dan perkara-perkara ini mungkin kita bincang dalam topik lain.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Maybe I can follow you after this for the visit.
Okay, thank you, Pak Zaki. Pak Imran, I want to ask you something, because I remember about the table that you presented to us is about the changes from the I think it's 1800 to 1900. I think after 1900 there are some changes where the marketplace disappear in some places.
Yeah, I think this one. Okay.
Yeah, is it this one?
Yeah.
What happened? Because I think marketplace is very vital for a city. What happened to these cases where the marketplace disappear?
Okay. And because due to the urbanization, some, for example, like Kuala Terengganu. Okay, Kuala Terengganu, we can assume they are royal town because of the royal place. So everything is there, all the components there. But somehow when the Sultan decide to move outskirts of the city, we should have a place called Cendereng. In Cendereng, the new palace located at the top of the hill. Downstairs is a settlement, but quite little bit outskirt. You can see the facing toward the to the beach and so on. So we can see there's palace on the top, but there's no place that we can find same characteristic with the original town, where is the market just located nearby to the palace. So in this case, this just only palace, just a very nice modern with 100 of rooms in that palace, very modern one, very rich full with architecture in Terengganu. You may Google it, Istana in Terengganu. You can look on it. Looks like Aladdin kind of palace. Very nice with local architecture, how they interpret the heritage. But again, but we look as the whole spatial. When we look on the macro, somehow the component is not there, surrounded there. Then it's quite difficult to say that the new place where the official palace located can be the royal town. Even though this part of the city is still under Kuala Terengganu, but it's quite outskirts of the original place.
Oh, okay. So it's actually the palace moved to new location, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's why. Okay. Okay, yeah. So how many of these 9? How many of them moved to the new palace, or maybe maybe renovated or rebuilt into something new?
Let's see. We have 9 based on our research previously. We conclude that they have 3 states that we can see still intact, original, in terms of location, in terms of physical characteristic, availability of the components and so on. Then 5 states already moved. The original palace already moved, maybe within the city, maybe out towards the next district. And the last one, based on modern, like case like I present to you, in Johor. Because totally different, not relate at all. They relate, but if I can say, less significant in terms of the continuity of the history of the place. Because suddenly they decide, okay, that town will be the royal town.
Yeah, it's about Muar, right?
Yes, Muar.
Bandar Maharani. Yeah. I heard about Muar because it's claimed as the royal town, but actually, the king and his family stay in Johor Bharu. And
but the good things about Muar, if I can add on, there has been declared through the what they call it, we have development plan, we have gazette in what they call special area plan. So when we have this document, endorsed in this document, so anything development needs to follow and reflect with the themes. So the themes that decide must be the royal town. So if you want to propose development, you must apply certain architectural styles, certain rules, regulation in terms of, for example, like within the town, the city center in Muar, they are not allowed to build high-rise building, for example. It's outside of the zone that has been gazetted. So things like this. For example, certain activity like activity is not it's not good. It's not good. I can say that. For example, like karaoke, this kind of activity is not allowed within that cities. And of course, the local authority with new project, with new park, everything, so they adopt and then adapt all the detail of the decoration and so on. So the city may look very nice and interpret, can represent the royal atmospheres.
So it's actually intentionally designed.
Yes. But of course, I not deny that there's a local history relates to the Johor kingdom also. But somehow this is the only example that available that I can say. But other 8 states, they don't have this kind of intention. Even though like we went to Terengganu, but somehow Terengganu somehow denying that Kuala Terengganu is the royal town. So, but this there, the history is there, the heritage is there, the component is also there. But when we meet the certain agencies or groups over there, they deny that because maybe they have I don't know, maybe they have a story behind that. So, but among the scholars, we don't have any problem. I think if you read all the paper, you may find that all the name of this place that we has discussed in this morning.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Is it possible if the claim that the Bandar Maharani as the royal town is because of Johor Bharu is very modern, and I think there's a modern project in relation to Johor Bharu. Is it possible because it's Johor Bharu can't be traditional? Is it possible?
No. No.
Okay.
After Sultan, if I'm not mistaken, Sultan Abu Bakar, you may write me. After they moved from Singapore, so they have, I can say, conflict, Sultan Ali and so on during that time. So they moved to Johor Bharu. They decide, what is the name of this? I forgot the original name. Tanjung Putri. The original place of Johor Bharu, Tanjung Putri. So they decide to move the istana over there. So they set up the kingdom. They bring all the governments. The office, everything. They set up the office, agencies, and everything there. Police station, everything. And then through the time, I think just few years after Johor Bharu was already established, they instruct their officer. What's the name? Dato' something Muhammad Saleh Perang. This one local tokoh tempatan, pembesar negeri. They send to they have two options, either to the east coast, which is Mesing, or to the west coast, which is Bandar Muar, Bandar Maharani. So they somehow they decide to choose to open up Bandar Maharani. It's not modern. Of time is established around 1018 something, 50 something. I don't know. It's quite a long time. And Mesing, somehow they have another person that in charge to open out there. Dato' Muhammad Saleh Perang opened two cities on the west side, which is Bandar Maharani and also Bandar Penggaram, this Batu Pahat next door district cities. So in terms of influence, when we talk about influence, that's why I highlight that during that time there's no planners and there's no official town planners. But all these guys, all the scholars, all the pembesar tempatan during that time, Sultan give instruction. Okay, so they open up there. So they have very unique. They have measurement system. They identify where's the emission center. They have official determine the zoning, the road system based on as their experience follow Sultan to the Europe trips. Case like Bandar Maharani, if I'm not mistaken, this guy have followed few trips to Europe, including Paris, like UK's, and also Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. And then they bring back, and I believe that they has influenced how they design, how they lay out and plan for the city. That's why you can see the grid system there. If you study grid system, belong to colonial period of time, but in this case, earlier than that. So we can say that somehow there's a certain arrangement has been influenced by exposure of these rulers, local rulers, including like case like in Kuala Terengganu. So Kuala Terengganu, before they call it Istana Hijau, if I'm not mistaken, they have a tower with 3 stories, if I'm not mistaken. They have a wooden structure. So very well, the technology is there. Okay, and because of the fire event, a natural disaster and so on, so they built new one, modern structure. Modern, we built bricks and so on because of their as influence when they go trips. They bring back all the influence.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question. I'm not sure this way. there's a simple question: is there any influence from the Aceh, the kingdoms in Aceh, to the Malay Royal Towns?
Aceh, somehow, if we talk about the evidence, the only thing that we can find is batu nisan. There's a lots of batu nisan coming from Aceh that distribute along the cities and so on. Like Kota Tinggi, the place that I show you, the maps where it is Kota Batu. That one also they have found when they do for archaeology, they found the Aceh kind of style tombs, batu nisan. So there's a, of course, this is a trading area, you know. So maybe there's a traders that coming in, mungkin ada pembesar, contoh tokoh-tokoh agama pergi berdakwah dan sebagainya. Like this place, the village is still there, also the name is still there, Kampung Johor Lama. If you visit this place, you can feel the atmosphere facing toward the river of Johor, very huge, very large, because it's located towards the river mouth, and then very strategic location, quite hilly. And then nowadays they rebuilt another structure, traditional Malay house there to become a gallery, but not really represent the palace, but we can feel the atmosphere. Then we can imagine that how this fort become one of the how this place become one of the administration center during the early Johor Kingdom period of time. So now when they do for archaeology, they found few sites. Actually, there's quite several influence.
Yes. Okay, thank you. There's another question. I think Valentinus Boris, please unmute yourself and just ask directly.
Sorry. Hi, Pak Nur Imran. My name is Boris. I'm an alumni of architectural awareness. Sorry if I take this story too long. I found a similarity between the Malay town, royal town, to the Keraton in Surakarta in central Java. I found, if I'm not wrong, the Surakartan kingdom is inspired by from the Hinduism perspective. Does the Malay Royal Towns plan also have connection to the Hinduism perspective? Because if I'm not mistaken, the Wirral in the Nusantara area was taken over by the Hinduism kingdoms. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a good question, Pak Boris. When we discuss about this matter, we may need to look on the timeline when the kingdom established and so on. So we know that from the timeline, of course, there are lots of influence. For example, like if we talk about less than 1,300, 1,200, of course, they have great influence in terms of from Hinduism influence. In this context, I call it Hindu Buddha influence in terms of belief and so on. And through the time, so this influence has been replaced by the Islam influence when coming into this area. So that's why if you look on the Javanese experience, especially in all the Keraton, okay, in Malaysia, if you study on Kuala Muda in Kedah, there's also Candi, the site that located there, which means that shown that there's also in early kingdoms also have influence in this context. So even though they found more site in Kuala Muda, this valley area, and the shipwreck and everything, they found it, even though the place where they used for what they call it, tempat peleburan logam dan sebagainya. So they found in that place. So we talk this kingdom which early than Malacca kingdom. We must to understand that we must have clear understanding that during that time, there's no Malaysia, there's no Indonesia, there's no Singapore. So we quite boundaryless. We can say there's no international boundary that what we understood. So at that time, each place they may have their own local rulers. And if you study on Sumatra, they have their own sultan, and towards the Javanese, of course, their own kingdom. If you want to discuss about Sriwijaya, apa lagi? Sriwijaya period of time and so on. During that time, in Peninsula, Tanah Melayu dan sebagainya di sebelah kanan di Peninsula, we talk about the Langkasuka government. We talk about the Ganggara, is it? We have talked. So they are different names, even though not the towns. Maybe perhaps it's different name what we have today. Okay, Alostar during that time. There's no Alostar during that time. Okay, this early than the modern city that maybe we discussed today, lah. Right? So I can say that the influence for the early kingdom, yes, they have. We have several sites. In Kedah, they have a few, I think two sites, I think, that showing they have influence because of the Candi. But other part, no, we didn't found as that significant. If you talk, I believe that you already read some discussion about the when we discuss about the Keraton, they will discuss about the mandala, about the concept of is it the concept how they arrange the city, the cemetery, and so on. So if you ask me, for early kingdom, yes, they may use this kind of principle, because during that time there's not yet it's the Islamic influence not yet there. Maybe they use nature, maybe they reflect with the belief towards alam semula jadi dan sebagainya. The orientation of mungkin ada influence bagaimana dia membahagikan perancangan spatial dia. I have seen a few paper discuss about it. They discuss about mandala concept, universe, and so on. But in this case, for this quite modern, we talk about 1800, 1900 township yang kemudian. Kalau kita lihat kingdom kajian lama-lama, mungkin kita akan jumpa seperti yang dibincangkan oleh Pak Boris tadi.
Masih ada lagi? Is there any question, Boris? You want to follow up, or is it enough?
No, I think that's all question answered.
Okay. Is there any other question from the audience? We still have about 10 minutes.
Mungkin saya boleh extend sikit tadi Pak Boris berkaitan influence, pengaruh. Kita tak deny, contohnya dalam konteks Seri Menanti di Negeri Sembilan, this royal town, they have lots of influence by Sumatrian punya style, because of the raja yang pertama tu, Raja Malewa tu datang, diminta oleh penduduk tempatan daripada Palembang, set up dia punya government, set up dia punya kingdom, kerajaan dan pertempatan di Seri Menanti. Dan influence Sumatera tu you can see a lot of dalam dekat Negeri Sembilan ni, dengan Minangkabau punya architecture style and everything. So influence there, kita tak deny. Dan juga tadi apa satu contoh lagi saya ingat tadi kan. Saya ingat contoh saya ingat pula. Jadi there's another one please. Atau apa? Saya bagi satu contoh dulu. Nanti boleh tengok Minangkabau influence. So the society is there also use Minangkabau punya gaya hidup dan sebagainya, budaya, they have a great influence there.
Okay, thank you very much, Isal. Is there any more question from the audience?
Di chat room ada ni apa-apa soalan? Kalau terus saya
tidak ada. It's just that it seems that everybody is interested with your material and they want us to share. If you permit us to share, then we'll share it.
Maybe I need to turn it into PDF version.
Yes.
Maybe I need to touch up few things and then we giving back.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Imran. If there's no more question, I think we can close this. Yeah, this is a very interesting talk, and thank you very much for this material, Pak Imran. I hope we can talk again about this somewhere in the future, because it is very interesting. So on behalf of the Sustainable Architecture Research Group, Magister Arsitektur Universitas 11 Maret, also of the Student Association, we really thank you for your material today and for your kindness to share with us. And also to the participants, thank you very much for your participations today, and see you in another occasions. Thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih semua.
Yeah.
Ibu Ofta, nanti yang tu saya share yang PDF version. Nanti
Okay.
saya kena letak citation sikit.
Okay.
Code.
Yeah. Thank you.
Terima kasih Dr. Imran.
Sure. Dr. Seri.